So what is the MyContext guy? I'm sorry it takes so long, but I'm not that sorry. I'm getting to it. Here you go. So I made a video, what is an atheist? I define what an atheist is in that video. And this guy says atheism, defined academically, generally denotes a rejection of theism. This usage was created by philosophers for the purpose of rigorous discussion. None of that means anything to me. Atheists believe there is no God. So, if you believe there is no God, why do you believe that? Prove it, or give me at least a logical reason to believe there is no God. Very simple. Defined psychology or / sociology denotes the non-acceptance of theism. This usage was created by those that claim the label has been the use of centuries informally, but has become prominent in recent years due to the number of people not accepting theism. That just seems like a bunch of hogwash to me. Like 99% of the planet believes in some sort of higher power, and I think the people who say they don't are just lying. Theists tend to want to push, okay, this is not true. This would be Christians and Muslims, because no one else is pushing their religion on anyone except Christians and Muslims. So no, this is not theists. This is Christians predominantly. So Christians tend to want to push the academic definition without understanding that such a definition does not necessarily apply to any particular atheist, due to such an individual not necessarily being engaged in academic discussion of the topic, and thus only hold the psychological / sociological definition. The issue being that the average atheist simply find theism to be unsupported, thus unreasonable, with no further inquiry needed from their perspective. One would need to understand philosophy in some fashion in order to engage the there is no God type of philosophical positions. Let me just explain everything he just said. Atheists believe there is no God. They believe in the Big Bang. They believe that nothing exploded and made everything. And they believe that that life evolved from non-life and that monkeys evolved into people. They believe all that. They believe that the only thing that exists is materialism, that only the natural universe is what is real. They believe all that, and all that stuff sounds kooky, crazy, absurd. Yeah. And all that stuff sounds crazy, and they know it sounds crazy, so they try to just get around the burden of proof. They just try to dodge that whole issue of explaining their beliefs because their beliefs are crazy and insane. They think the universe created itself from nothing. So they throw out all this words and all this like, oh, technically, and all this. No. Their beliefs are crazy. They know it, so they don't like talking about them. They just want to scoff at Christianity. That's kind of their thing. They just want to attack Christianity because they can't defend atheism, so they don't even try. Okay. Oddly enough, I have always been an atheist in both senses of the word, due to understanding the absurdity due to incoherence of such claims as a kid, such as an extent that I quietly wondered, why are the adults lying? So you weren't an atheist when you were a child. Actually, you might have been, actually. But it still stands, though, that you believe there is no God. So, everything you just said, nothing changes. Atheists believe there is no God. Why do you believe there is no God? No, everything you just said there doesn't change that. Okay? Okay, now we're going to get some more word salads. It's the same guy. What is the logical reason to believe there is no God? Here are a few. Okay, so here we go. If X cannot be sustained as existent, then there is no rational basis to accept that such exists, and by extension, no rational basis for belief in X. So it has to be God. So if God cannot be sustained as existent, well, I don't know, what does that mean? Then there is no rational basis to accept that God exists, and by extension, no rational basis for belief in God. But I don't know, what does any of that mean? If God cannot be sustained as existent, what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. You're just like, it doesn't mean anything. There is no distinction with context of reality between imaginary and the non-existent, and thus rationally anything denotable as imaginary is also denotable as non-existent. So, if you don't understand anything he just said, it's because it doesn't make any sense. If I ask you for a logical reason why you believe there is no God, this is not what you would say. This is not what you would say. Okay? This is just some sort of like, because that's, the guy said he was an atheist since he was a child, so this is what you came up with since you were a child. Like, how old were you? 5? And then you figured as a child, if God cannot be sustained as existent, then there is no rational basis to accept that such existence, and by an extension, no rational basis for belief in God. You figured that as a child? Huh? No. This is just like a bunch of clever wording to basically get around the question, you believe there is no God. Why do you believe there is no God? It's a simple question. What do you got? They got nothing. They know it. That's why they try to evade talking about it. Something else I just kind of want to point out real quick. He says there is no distinction with the context between imaginary and non-existent. So there's no distinction with the context of reality between imaginary and the non-existent. I don't know what that means. Because I thought, like, what does that even mean? Imaginary, like, I thought you think something, you imagine something, and then you, like, do it. So if you can imagine something, then you can think about it. And if you can think about it, then it's real. It's at least real in thought. So if you can imagine a leprechaun riding a unicorn, if you can imagine that, you can at least have that image in your mind, and so that is real. But I don't know what he's talking about. Is this what you're talking about? Because you can imagine a leprechaun riding a unicorn. You can imagine that in your mind, and then you could draw that out on paper. You could probably even ask AI to make it for you. But my point is, you're imagining something, but your imagination exists. So he says there is no distinction with the context of reality, which again, so I mean, that's you don't have to say that. Just say there's no distinction between the imaginary and non-existent. Well, I disagree. I'd say something that's imaginary, you can at least picture it. Something that is non-existent, you can't even think of it. So I just disagree with this entire premise. I disagree with your entire premise that something that is imaginary is non-existent. If you can imagine something, it exists. At least it exists in your mind. So his entire premise is just not true. And claim number 2. Any claim about reality which entails that reality be a particular way, which is not in fact the case, is automatically falsehood. What? What did you just say? Any claim about reality which entails that reality be a particular way. Okay, so if I say this is the way, which is not in fact the case, is automatically a falsehood. Well, yeah, you basically just said if someone says something that's not true, then it's not true. That's basically what you just said. Okay, what? But this is the thing. They use all these words and all this wording, not because it's supposed to be it's supposed to be confusing. Again, why? No one talks like this. No one talks like this. No one talks like this. So why is he talking like that? I will tell you the answer to this question. Atheism is indefensible, and they know it. So they don't even try to defend it. They do their utmost to try and get around defending atheism because they can't. At the end of the day, they can't prove there is no God. They can't prove the universe exploded itself into existence from nothing. They can't prove life came from non-life. They can't prove monkeys evolved into people. They can't prove any of that. But they believe it as a faith. Which is fine. You can believe that as a faith if you want. But then they say it's not faith. They say it's science, but they can't prove it. And then they say my faith is silly. My faith is silly. Well, whatever, bro. Whatever. You know, if I can't prove something in the Bible, that doesn't make it false. You can't prove any of your beliefs. But you believe your beliefs are true. Whatever. So this is why they use this word salad. This is why it's so complicated to even read their questions, is because it's meant to be this technical analysis of something that's complete baloney. You believe there is no God. Why do you believe there is no God? It's a very simple question. They won't answer it because they can't. They can't answer it. Because if they do, it just shows that their beliefs are going to look very silly. Okay, so he says here, if you say something that's true, but it's not true, then it's actually not true. Okay, very good. Thus the claim of God, thus the claim of an omnipotent, omnibenevolent entity is automatically a falsehood given the demands of action entailed in the claim, such that the claim is a falsehood. I don't think what you just said makes any sense. You basically are just saying, I don't believe in God, so I think God is not real. Wow, very clever. You basically didn't say anything. Thus the claim of God is automatically a falsehood, given the demands of action entailed in the claim that God is real is a falsehood. How? Like, you basically just said God is false because God is false. Premise 2, false. And number 3. No, I can't scroll down no more. That's fine. Number 3. The idea of a God is incoherent due to many points of issue. Intelligence being conceptually impossible as foundational is just one of the many points of incoherence, such as there can't be such an entity. Again, you're just saying there's no God because there's no God. Prove it. You know, you're saying a whole bunch of stuff, but you're not saying anything. But this is why I didn't want to make an actual comment response to him, because I'm talking a lot. I don't want to type all this out. Okay, final one. MyContext, you're the lucky winner. You presented a self-own. I don't know what that is. I'd have to look that up. What's a self-own? Like I own myself? What's that mean? The issue being that you're attempting, there's a type, Y-O-U''RE. The issue that you're attempting to mock the acceptance of evolution simply denotes you as being ignorant of evolution. That's not true. You mock God, does that mean you're ignorant of God and everything the Bible says? You can know a lot about the Bible and still mock God. So your first line, completely false. So I am left to wonder, it's the sad thing when your first premise is false and then you go off of that premise to your next premise. It's like, your first premise was false though. Oh well. Oh well. So I'm left to wonder, why are you rejecting evolution? Because it's false and it contradicts the Bible. And again, evolution is what? Nothing exploded, made the universe, and then life evolved from rocks, which evolved into slime, which became alive somehow, and that evolved into an amoeba, and that evolved into a fish, and that evolved into a beaver, and that evolved into a person. And you believe all that. Okay, whatever. So I don't believe it because it's absurd and unproved, and it contradicts the Bible, and it also is, there's just no reason to believe it. There's just no reason to believe it. Like, you guys pretend that evolution is like the foundation for science or something. It's not. We had science thousands of years before evolution. Evolution is not part of science. If you did not believe evolution as all, it wouldn't affect your ability to do science at all. However, belief in God is not, it's not the same with God. You see, if you don't believe in God, so let me say this. Belief in God, if you believe God created the universe, then you're assuming that everything in the universe has a purpose because it was created by God. So with this assumption in mind that everything has a purpose, when you find something in the universe or in nature, you're assuming there's a design for it, there's a pattern for it, there's a purpose for it. And because you're assuming there is a purpose, you're going to look and keep looking until you find it. And that's how you're going to do science, and that's how you're going to find the answers. Because you're assuming there is a point, there's a purpose. Because you believe God created us. So you're going to keep looking until you find that answer, and you always are going to find that answer. Or it might take years, but you'll find it. Unless it's something that's beyond our comprehension. The point is, if you believe that the universe has a purpose, then you'll keep looking until you find it. If you believe the universe has no purpose, then why would you even look for the purpose of the universe? If you believe that man was not created for a reason, or that he was not created, then if there's an organ in our body that you don't understand what it does, like our appendix, that, the atheist evolutionists say that we have a vestigial appendix. Vestigial meaning it's a leftover organ from evolution that we don't need anymore. Basically, they think that we evolved, and we just sort of evolved an appendix, and it doesn't really do any function. And then we evolved past that, and now we just kind of have a leftover organ that doesn't have any function or purpose. That's what a vestigial organ is. And they think our appendix is vestigial, and it turns out actually it's not vestigial. It turns out your appendix is part of your immune system. And okay, there you go. So it's like, because they assume there is no creator God, their science is going to be flawed. This is why I did not want to make a type out this comment. Type out an answer to his comment, because I'm explaining a lot here. I didn't want to type all this out. So, belief in God assumes the universe has a purpose, so then you look for it. If you don't believe in God, you assume the universe has no purpose, so why bother looking for one? You assume there is none, so there's no point in looking for it, therefore your science is going to be hindered because of it. Okay. So I am left to wonder, why are you rejecting evolution? Is it an issue of ignorance, an issue of your ideological commitments resulting in your rejection, in your rejecting reality? What exactly is the issue? I explained all that in my little rant. So there you go. I'm answering your question. I'll just heart your comment or something. But yes, you're the lucky one, MyContext. I took the time out of my day to answer your question. So just thank you for the question, though, and keep coming. Yeah, keep like, comment, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. I do want to answer you guys' questions. So if you have a question, post it. I'll get to it eventually. If it's a quick question, I'll just respond with a comment. If it's more complicated like this, then I'll just do videos like this. We'll see how that goes. This was fun. I had fun doing this. Okay, thank you guys. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and bye.